Nice.
Yeah.
You ain't got one.
Yeah, ask, yeah. You got it now, Joe?
I know they took,
Let me check.
I had to turn in attendance
Tamara,
6 months ago.
John asked me the other night about the stipend.
Yeah, maybe, probably about that.
Stipends, he said he hadn't gotten one in a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I just,
I think they only do them
I
twice.
think they do twice a year.
Yeah,
So it's.
it'd probably be June or
you
July.
get I think it's January and June.
okay.
Yeah, it's on.
I think anything in
It's on.
January.
Okay,
Folks, if they-
No, there's nothing in January.
I think it's twice a year.
Yeah.
I'll check with them.
Yeah, it was longer than that. I think it was last June or July.
Yeah, it was last year. Way last year. It's up page, you one had a bottle on it, didn't it?
you got 9 o'clock
There's
down?
some fishing balls too, but they look like specials or something like that. They were-
I'd like to call the April 23rd, 2019 Planning Board meeting to order. Welcome our visiting dignitaries. Thank you for being here. All members are present.
Wendell would like to be here, but he's out of town. So Wendell would like to be here, but he's out of town.
Okay. All members present. And the adoption of the agenda, I would like to add, under old business, approval of Chapter 8, and request a approval for adoption of the modified agenda.
Make a motion to accept the adopted version of the minutes. Or modified version of minutes, I'm sorry.
All right. And before I move on, we have minutes to approve.
No, the minutes are not in here on this packet. You'll get those next month.
Okay. All right, continuing under old business. At the end of last month's meeting, we were given a copy of Chapter 8 of the long-range plan and asked to look at it, and if there are any revisions or any comments by anybody, to submit them. We got nothing back, so I'm looking for a motion to approve Chapter 8 and put it in the finished pile to go to the chair, go to the council when we're done with the whole book.
I'll do that, I'll make a motion.
Motion by John,
Second.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Now, continuing with the comprehensive plan update, chapters 5 and 6. And Preston, how do you want to handle that?
However you want to go about it, we can look at it, if y'all want to review it, or if we could do it, if you want to do it like we did 8, just everybody take a look at it, and if you have any comments,
Yeah.
just send them to me, and we'll get them edited, and we'll approve it at the next meeting. However you'd like to handle it.
Getting it, John, you were leaning that way. Peter? You'll go over them line by line here and correct them? Or do you want to go, take it home, make your comments, send them in?
Either way you want to go about it.
Joe, you got any preferences?
I'd rather go over it and review it here if we could.
All right, it's going to take quite a bit of time, and it's something we could do on our own as individuals and feed it back into Preston and then have the finished one ready to vote on. Or we can go line by line. Okay.
That would be fine, Pete. That's fine with me.
All right. Robbie, any preference?
No.
Okay. I'd just as soon be able to sit there with a hard copy and do it at my leisure over the dining room table with a cup of coffee and not take up everyone else's time up.
Certainly, if any board member has any questions about the edits or changes, feel free to call me, and I can explain where we came up with those or where they came about. So if you have questions that maybe you don't understand why they were made or whatever, just let me know.
That's good.
Okay, Preston?
You want to move on to new business or?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna take these home and do them the way
Okay.
we've done them in the past,
All right.
and I prefer to continue that because it works.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make this meeting go on till 1 o'clock.
Okay. The other thing you have in your packet is a rezoning for the Shane Park property. It's currently zoned R1, which is a residential zoning. I think everybody's kind of familiar with the proposed plans for that park. So this would make it more consistent with what the rec center is zoned, and it would also allow for a campground in it and that sort of thing. So this is sort of the background things that we need to take care of in order for that project to be legal.
Okay, the town right now does not have an ordinance against camping.
We have a conditional use permit criteria for campgrounds.
Okay, I remember we worked on something, but I didn't know, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
To meet those standards?
And what we're doing here is rezoning it to a classification that is consistent with all the town properties, and then adding into the permitted use table a conditional use for campgrounds as a conditional use there.
Okay, some time ago, we put something in the ordinances about campgrounds.
Uh-huh.
What specifically a campground needed,
Yes.
like, sanitary facilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Does that mean that they're gonna be put onto this also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Once that's done.
Okay, and what about permitting for fires? Is each individual campsite gonna have a fire pit, or is it gonna be one?
I don't know if that's addressed in the ordinance. It may be more of a policy determination. We can take a look at the codes. I don't have internet. But this basically just adopts, it rezones the property to something that will allow for campgrounds. And then the campground rules that are in place will apply to this.
Okay.
You have the Director of Parks and Rec here who might be able to answer your question.
Yeah. You want, Sean, if you, the question was, would they be permitting individual fire pits, or would it be a?
Property to,
Turn that on, Sean. Underneath.
Could you repeat that? Permitting individual fire pits at the campsites?
Yeah, was that was your
Right,
question?
when people go camping, especially in the wintertime, everybody builds a fire.
Yes.
So you've got 20 platforms for tents or a camping site. Are there gonna be 20 different areas for fire pits, or is one?
So, first off, as of right now, we're not planning for 20 campsites. What's going to be in that site area right now, roughly anywhere from maybe 7 to 10 campsites that would leave that area
Right.
would not have a fire permissible. Only in that park and at a dedicated site that we will have a fire ring at, so an actual steel frame.
Okay,
That's going to have a fire.
okay.
So if you do one outside, and again, you'll have to fill out a permit to even rent a campsite no matter what.
Right.
If you do a fire there, our police will come pay you a visit.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I mean, we do not want any unauthorized wildfires.
And there will be a bathroom access for all these
Yes.
campsites?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, bathroom and shower facility.
okay. That's located where?
If you looked at the site map, it's kind of where the parking lot is. The bathroom house is kind of right there at it.
Okay.
So also, if there's water that's being needed, we'll have spigots on the outside of that bathroom. So
Right.
maybe again, we wouldn't hope for that, and then there's fire hydrants local,
Right.
or close by, I guess.
Okay.
Sean, how would they know if it's an unauthorized fire? Who's going to report it?
I mean, that's gonna be the trouble part. I guess kind of self-policing. If we see anything, again, our staff will be checking on the sites when people are gone. So if you were at site, let's just call it site F, and there was a fire that was there, that was not a municipal fire station. Well, whoever is names on that permit, that's who we're going after.
What's their fine? What's
The nitty-gritty side of this.
the point is, if they at 11 o'clock at night they make a fire, and you don't see it for 2 days,
I mean, all we can do is educate them and tell them you are not allowed to do a fire here. And then tell them, I guess, if you do, then whatever fine and penalty that we come up with.
so you're
That's
saying
what
it's,
we
you're
get
saying
set.
it's self.
I mean, if we
Well-
see it after the fact, I'm
Well,
sure
if
we're gonna
it's-
have monitors out there.
If it's gonna be checked the same day that they leave or within an hour or two after the occupants leave the site, anybody with common sense can walk around and see where there's been a fire,
Right.
you know? So I think then after that, you're gonna have to, what are you gonna do about it? You need to go ahead and put that in place now, you know, because if it's just a bluff, then, right, and it probably will.
It's gonna happen.
Well, at night,
All right,
at night, when you've got police patrol, I mean, the police are obviously gonna go out there if they know people are out there. And they can spot it, probably from the road. You can't spot a fire from the road, something's wrong with you. Or even just a general walk, or just patrolling around the area.
And one thing I would say, these sites that we're talking about of not having a fire, that's nothing that has necessarily been approved. We've only discussed it.
Right.
So we may find, we don't want to have that at all. And only where those sites are anyway, in the vicinity of the Shake Park. So you would have a fire ring. So we're kind of getting away from what
From
is
what-
actually being just, what is being discussed,
Right.
versus what could be.
Right.
And that's the stuff that we look at down the road. Do we build more sites? And then if we do we want to just go ahead and build the site appropriate to where that would have also a fire ring? And then obviously looking at where it is, if you're in a high canopy section, you're probably not going to want to have a fire there. You need to have open air. You don't want embers flying around and starting anything. So I guess let's not say that it is happening because that's not being said. It's what could be.
Similar to
Right.
what you have down by the lake already. Similar to what you have down by the lake already.
Yes.
We just
Well,
need to be real.
That's
Yeah.
more rock. We actually, you can get, a metal circle.
Sure can.
And then have a grill kind of come and,
Sure can.
swing back and forth on it. So it's kind of a way to kill two birds with one stone. Grill and
We just need to be real aware of
Oh, yeah.
about the fires. You know where, how fires burn, they burn uphill. That's on the bottom, and guess who's on the top?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, it's all good. I'm just trying to bring to light what,
the whole,
I definitely agree. When it comes into penalties and fines and that kind of plan, we haven't.
Well,
that's
figure
way down
that
the
out.
road, that's way down the road.
Yeah.
right,
First, you gotta decide whether you're gonna allow it, because I don't camp much, but the second thing I do when I do camp is get the fire going. I've never heard of a campsite that didn't have a fireplace. And if they're gonna have these campsites, then the next thing you know, they're coming back and saying, oh, we need to add to PS another exception. And, Peter, you're expressing the danger, but first they gotta decide whether they're really gonna have these campsites.
Right.
Because I've heard a lot of controversy in the town over, oh yeah, they're gonna start with 4, but then it'll be 12, and then it'll be 20. Does camping and campsites fit into the long-range plan as it exists?
Is this gonna be year-round camping, or?
The park will be open year round. If we, again, I think as Pete said, some of this fine line stuff is kind of far out. So if we wanted to say not allow camping the months of December to March, something like that to cut down. Or again, we can still, if we're in a very dry season, absolutely you cut fires out.
Right, right.
And that is where you step in and you make a very hefty fine on that. I mean, they do it out west almost every single summer, and if you're
Right.
caught, I think it's jail time. I'm not saying we have to go that route, but
Is there gonna be a length of time that somebody can camp there?
yes, now that, again, that is in the works of, we're trying to keep it limited to maybe 2 nights. That has not been set in stone, but we do not want to have a week stay. We're trying to keep it, a shorter stay limit for it.
Right.
Years ago, from what I understand, the reason I'm asking is, years ago, they had campgrounds, and Riley may be a little bit more familiar with this, they had campgrounds, and people who come up here and work the slopes were sleeping in tents up on top of your owner's property in Pinnacle, am I correct?
Correct.
So they would stay up there all year.
That can be limited just by
I know, I'm just saying though,
these guys checking stuff out.
length of time.
Yeah. No, we definitely want to keep a length of time, and make this, again, a lot of this is, as it's new, it's going to be about education. Letting people know you can't just come and take a site, you've got to sign up with us. When we take in a permit, we also pass that on to the police department, have a little connection between them. So with it being so close to the road, it is very helpful that we can monitor this a lot. And they already go down there anyway, but that's going to be an important role of this.
One more thing, is there gonna be an emergency phone box down there?
We've not said it, but there's no reason there should be. There's one at Lake Coffee, so we can have one there too.
Right, somebody pick up, doesn't even have to be a dial, just picks
Yeah.
up and rings.
Yeah.
Like
And
a
that'd be on
911.
probably outside the bathhouse.
Right.
I think it's gonna be a trial and error deal. And I think it'll be a great added thing to Beach Mountain for something else that we offer that we have never offered before. And it could be something big, or it could be a big headache. I mean, it's all, we just
We
have
can
to work
change
it
the
out.
rules.
Right,
We change the rules if we don't like it, we close it.
right. I mean, we've never had camping sites up here on Beach Mountain as I can remember, have we, Pete?
No.
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 Well, we've had a lot of camping, okay?
Right, but
I
not
mean, I've-
designated
I've
camping
camped on
sites.
top of the mountain behind the old patrol room.
Right, out there in the
Doing
West Bowl.
Winter exercises.
Right,
But it wasn't it was just
well, right.
It wasn't a recreational camp.
It wasn't
Right,
that
right, the city wasn't, the
Yeah,
town wasn't
right.
responsible for it,
Yeah.
right.
And I will tell you, I mean, we have families all the time in the summertime come in and they're asking, where can we camp? Kate Giovannis gets it at the TDA a lot. So it is something that people are seeking out. And
Good.
how can we do this? And again, one of the things that was kind of in the design of this, and once again, kind of keep it limited to a certain amount of nights, a lot of the clientele that are asking about this, they've never even slept outside. They've never camped. And this is a really, I think, a neat way for them to experience it a little bit, but not just hike 5 miles out in the woods and be in very remote situations.
Right.
And it'll give us an opportunity to do new programs that maybe we haven't even looked into yet, such as how to put up a tent. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people just get the directions out.
Right, right, well, I've seen it before.
How many of us have grandkids that camp in the backyard now?
Well, that's what
Nobody ever knows about it.
Well,
but
they
they-
do, yeah.
this is what I consider this, is a backyard camping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and with the lake there, so it's, again, I really do think it's something that, as you said, it's kind of trial and error, but at the same time, we're going to start seeing, as we move with it, the real benefits. And we will probably change what we started with. And-
It's gonna have to be
and adapt.
tuned.
We'll kind of get stuck in the ditch before we even get to the ditch here. And I understand why John's raising that concern about the camping, is that when you go change this from an RS1 to PS, and then they start adding a lot of different things into the PS, because this is a work in process. I mean, that piece of property, or the parking lot piece of the property, which is probably less than an acre, or about an acre, and it's 3 acres of stuff, it's been used PS service for 25 years, because it was a town marshaling yard. And nobody ever really complained about it. But that area is starting to grow with more residential homes in its area. And it is as John points out, hey, what are you doing? Peter saying, every place has, all of a sudden you got a smoking pit down there. If it's only 2 nights a year, get over it. But if we're opening that can of worms that changes the whole direction of what the long-range plan says we're going towards, then it has to be discussed, maybe not at this level, but at least at council level, as to whether they allow changes to the new classification. But I'd like to get us on, does anybody have any objections to rezoning this from RS1 to PS? Joe?
I have a question about it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm not speaking against campsites or fire pits or any of that. I'm just asking, the rezoning, if we go ahead with it, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that either, but if we go ahead with it, that's not committing us to the campsite concept, is that correct? There might be other options and uses for that property that could yet be discussed and reviewed, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. What the rezoning will do, you basically have 2 actions before you. One is the rezoning, which will reclassify it as a PS, which is a public or private public service district, which would be consistent with most town properties are zoned that category. The second action that you have before you is to allow campgrounds in that PS district as a conditional use. Now, neither of those holds you to or require that a campground is built there. It just adds it as a possible option. Does that clarify?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I was wondering. Thank you.
And if we don't like that, we can go up to Robbie's and camp out behind in his woods.
Sure.
Too rocky.
All right. Preston, I assume you want to handle these one at a time?
Yeah, if you would just, get a motion on the rezoning and then as the text amendment to allow the campgrounds as a conditional use.
That'd be a second.
Yeah, as a second separate motion.
Okay. I'll make the motion to accept, change it to PS.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Peter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Now, the second one is they're requesting that under the PS table, we add campgrounds as a conditional use to the planning zone district. Do I hear a motion either way on that? That's, Joe, anything?
Well, if you're asking for a motion, I would move that we approve it.
Okay.
All right, so discussion, well, second?
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Joe and seconded by John. Discussion, please.
I would want to make sure that we see, a well-drafted discussion of the campground, how it be used, and the plans presented to the committee for review.
Because what we're doing here, we're setting the precedence that we are going to allow campground on public service property, and obviously, once that's in place, it more than likely would be handled by the Parks and Recreation Department, and we would be getting
Yeah, it is.
Or we set it with limits.
Well, if you approve this, you are setting limits. It is, we are requesting that it's a conditional use, which requires a conditional use permit. That would go before the Board of Adjustments for approval. That's quasi judicial, so if they meet the requirements of the code for campgrounds, then the Board of Adjustments would approve their conditional use permit. There are stipulations in the code regarding what is required of campgrounds, as John mentioned. They reviewed this before, and these were the conditions for, and I think campgrounds are allowed in the commercial zoning district, just no one's ever applied for that conditional use permit. But this would hold the town to those same requirements.
Now, is this all camping or primitive? Because this is gonna be primitive here.
I think it's limited, I think the ordinance limits it to primitive camping, but I'm pretty sure this is, anything they're talking about is primitive camping.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Strictly tent camping.
No RVs.
Yes.
Right.
None of that.
No problems.
Until somebody buys about 10 tracks down in the
Westerly Hills.
Westerly Hills area and says, oh, wow, we want a travel trailer camping in here.
Isn't that designated for that area?
It's that's
Well,
designated
That's
mobile
Mobile
home.
Home Park is up in that Westerly Hills area, but
Yeah,
where
currently,
I'm coming from is like, okay, here's the wedge in a major change in policy, and does this thing flourish into something that we wish we'd never started?
Well, can we stop that to start with? Can we put some kind of policy or ordinance in there that says, you know, there will be no campgrounds allowed on private property?
Well, it's zoned, they're all zoned R1 now, so they'd have to go through the whole process. Even if somebody buys 10 lots up and combines them, it's still zoned RS1.
Yeah,
So bang,
couldn't do it.
he can't do it.
You'd have to go.
But he'd have to come and say, I want to get it rezoned commercial, because I'm setting up a commercial operation.
Right. So then we'd have to rezone it.
And then a future board rezones it, and then bang. Whether we'd like to have those or not, and I'm either way on it, because I live
Well,
right up
that's
here.
the thing, you know, we don't, it's not gonna affect us, but if we have a house right there on the side of Buckeye Lake, and I know there's several are, now, do you want a bunch of screaming Boy Scouts running around down there all night?
That's a worst case scenario that is very apt to happen.
Just to
And so
put that in
what
there.
I'm saying is that as a planning board, we need to be thinking of those consequences, which was John's initial, like, whoa, where are we going here? Think about the consequences. That's a worst case scenario.
And Peter, I would say something else that we've discussed is quiet hours. That's something you find in a lot of campgrounds around the whole country.
Right.
After 9 o'clock, you know,
Right.
keep it down.
Right,
So we get really when it's into what's allowed, what's not allowed, that'll be on. But I mean, if you're in a residential area, that should definitely be in there.
and that'll be policed by the PD.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, so if we start finding that we're getting a bunch of phone calls from stuff like that happening, as Pete said, that's the worst case scenario, but if we're seeing it happen all the time, maybe we've seen it up the police patrol, I don't know, but, you know, again, growing pains.
Right,
Yeah.
right, we just have to figure it
But
out.
yeah, definitely, I think a quiet hour is very important for around residents.
Okay, any more discussion? Robin?
No.
Do you camp very often? What do you think? What do you see?
Every night. No, I don't camp.
You just make campsites.
I work outside all day. I don't want to go sleep out there.
Your idea of camp is Holiday Inn, right?
Joe, any further comment on it?
No, my point before though was what we just discussed is that I want to understand, what the camping is going to involve and how far it's going to go. But as far as the concept goes, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. And as far as the rezoning issue, which is what we're discussing, I'm in favor of that. So, I have no other questions though.
Okay. We also have to have faith in the fact that those beyond this board are going to consider those same options, and as time grows, it changes. That'd be my only comment. It's a natural progression, and all we're doing is legalizing what some of the goals of Parks and Recreation are progressing and pushing forward. And in support of that, look how far the Recreation Department has come in this town and what an integral part of it is. Chair would entertain a motion to, we have the motion on the
Yeah,
floor.
motion is second.
Thank you. Yes, I realized about the same time you spoke then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Preston, that completes the agenda.
Yeah, unless there's any
Is
other
there
business.
any other business to come before this meeting? Hearing none, the chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do you have anything, Peter?
No,
Any closing comments?
no
sir?
closing comments.
Joe, thank you for your attention and your input, and we'll see you in a couple months.
Oh, disappeared.
Bye, Joe.
He
He's
left.
ready to go.
Yeah. Motion, meeting adjourned. I guess that's off, huh, Riley?
Hey, John. John. Hey, John. Absolutely not. That's not camping.
So, some of the smoke and mirrors that are in their plan, I don't always think it's a beautiful picture.
Now, I have been to campsites that there is no fire pits, and it's plain stated there that, you have to have a stove, all meals will be cooked on the stove in a certain area. But up here, you got cold weather at nighttime for 7.5 months out of the year. Everybody wants a fire to warm up with at nighttime. But, I mean, like you say, it's gonna be a touch and go. We'll have to, we'll be presented and confronted with a lot of different deals, I think.
Yeah.
Which will be a fun think tank on it.
If it gets out of hand, you
Shut it down.
you redo it. That's no reason for it not to.
Right.
I don't know how I came across it. I'm trying to sit neutral on the things, see what would come up.
Right.
But of course, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. It's pretty valid for, I mean, number one camping is you want to be safe. It should be a buffer, not a building.
A buffer.
Yes, should be a buffer. That is our only recommendation we got.
And maybe that's,
But
yeah, we have to go speak ourselves.